Matt's nerves were raw. Any minute now, Mr. Alacron would stride outside the house and shout, "Take this creature away! Dispose of it at once!" Memories threatened to overwhelm him. He didn't know what he would do if he saw Celia. Matt went up the broad steps leading to the salon. It was there that El Patron had introduced him to the family so long ago. It was there that El Viejo had lain like a starved bird in his coffin, and Amelia, surrounded by Egypt flower girls, had married Stephen. It was as though the great hall thronged with ghosts. They hovered behind the white marble pillars. They breathed over the dark pond covered with water lilies. Matt saw an ancient fish rise from the depths to look at him with a round yellow eye. Matt froze. Someone was playing a piano. The person was certainly skilled, but he, or she, was attacking the music with such ferocity that it bordered on madness. Matt raced toward the sound. The noise rolled like a tidal wave out of the music room, and he had to cover his ears. "Stop!" he yelled, but the person didn't react. Matt crossed the room and grabbed the man's arm. Mr. Ortega spun around. He took one look and fled. Matt heard his footsteps disappear down the hall. "I wasn't that bad a student," Matt murmured. But of course, Mr. Ortega had thought he was dead. He was probably crying alarm from one end of the house to the other. Now it was only a matter of time before someone showed up. Matt sat down. His hands were calloused from the work he'd done at the salt factory, and he was afraid the hard labor had made his fingers clumsy. But as he began the Adagio from Beethoven's Piano Concerto No. 5, the awkwardness fell away. The music swelled through his body, transporting him from the horrors of the past few months. He felt as light as a hawk coasting the upper air over the oasis. He played until he felt a hand on his shoulder. Matt turned, still in a daze of music, and saw Celia dressed in the flowered dress he remembered so well. "Mi hijo," she cried, gathering him into a ferocious bear hug. "Oh, my darling, you're so thin! What happened to you all this time? How did you get back? What's wrong with your face? It's so thin and covered with zits," said Matt, struggling to catch his breath. "Ah, well, it's part of growing up," declared Celia. "They'll go away with the right food." She held him at arm's length to look at him. "I'm sure you're taller. Are you okay?" said Matt. Her sudden appearance shocked him. He was afraid of bursting into tears. "Of course, but you took about 5 years off Mr. Ortega's life. How did you, Tam Lin said you had to hide." Matt couldn't trust his voice enough to say more. "Tam Lin, oh my." Celia looked suddenly very tired. "We've been in lockdown for months and couldn't send you a message. Why didn't Mr. Alacron or Stephen do something?" said Matt. "You'd better come with me." Celia led Matt through the halls, and once again he was struck by how silent everything was. They came to the kitchen, and at last Matt saw something reassuringly normal. 2 undercooks were kneading bread, and a maid was slicing vegetables. Strings of garlic and chiles hung from the ceiling. The odor of roast chicken wafted over him from the big wood-fired oven. Mr. Ortega and Daft Donald were sitting at a table with cups of coffee and 2 laptop computers. "See, I wasn't making it up," said Mr. Ortega. Daft Donald typed something onto his computer. "I was not running around like Chicken Little," said Mr. Ortega, reading his screen. "You'd be upset too if a ghost grabbed your shoulder." Daft Donald smiled. Matt stared at them. He'd never thought of the 2 men outside their duties as music teacher and bodyguard. He'd never tried to communicate with them, and besides, he'd always assumed Daft Donald wasn't bright. "I'd better begin," sighed Celia. She settled Matt between the 2 men and fetched him a mug of hot cocoa. The odor brought back memories so profound the room wavered before his eyes. For an instant, Matt was in the little house in the poppy fields. A storm raged outside, but in the house it was warm and safe. The scene faded, and he was back in the kitchen. "You remember what I said about El Patron never letting anything go?" Celia began. Matt nodded. "Tam Lin used to say that things and people became part of El Patron's dragon horde. Used to say, Matt thought with a chill. What did that mean? That's why he wouldn't let Felicia run away, and why he kept Tom close to him. Although he hated the boy, we all belonged to him. The Alacrans, the bodyguards, the doctors, me, Tam Lin, and you. Most of all, you. Well, that's the end of this chapter. I really want to keep reading because I want to find out what the heck is going on in the big house right now. Nobody's doing anything. The whole thing is on lockdown. Matt's back and everybody's like, oh, hey, cool, it's Matt. Nobody's trying to kill him. You know, Mr. Ortega was scared because he thought he saw a ghost. But he didn't try to hurt Matt or anything like that. So what's going on here? Also, Esperanza has made a deal with the United States and Aztlan governments to try and get Matt installed as the new leader of the country of opium. But wouldn't maybe Steven or what's that other boy's name? Or maybe Mr. Alacran, right? Wouldn't they be qualified to run opium? So why is nothing being done? Why are hovercrafts being shot out of the sky? It's all very weird, and hopefully, and we should, find out in this last chapter here, the House of Eternity, tomorrow.